Hello class 9, welcome to your civics class. In today's class, I'm going to continue the topic that is salient features of the constitution. So let's get started. Effect of other constitutions which suited our needs. So the constitution, Indian constitution seems to have been affected and influenced by other constitutions of the world. That means some of the principles we have in our Indian constitution have adopted some of the principles which are given in the other countries' constitutions, right? For example, parliamentary form of government, and from USA, what our constitution had laid down. Our constitution had laid down the principle of judicial review from America's constitutions. And in other words, the Supreme Court of India acts as a final interpreter of the constitution. So these type of principles that the Indian constitution have adopted from other countries' constitutions, right? That is why the Indian constitution seems to have been affected and influenced by other countries' constitutions, right? Now, next is democratic and republican features. So we know that the constitution proclaims the sovereign power. Sovereign power means supreme power resides in the people. Because we know that democracy means free and fair elections, liberties, civil liberties such as freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and the rule of law and independence of judiciary. Because we know there are three organs in the Indian government: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. And judiciary is that third organ which is kept independent from these two organs. These two organs means from legislature and executive, right? So our constitution prohibits discriminations on grounds of religion, caste, creed, or sex, right? So that's the features of democratic country. Now next is republican. So republican means Indian Union is a republican. So republican means a republican government is one which no individual has an hereditary right to public offices. That means there is no king or queen. So in India there is no king, no queen, right? So India is a republic. Why? Because the head of the state, head of India is elected by we people, right? Or indirectly elected by we people, we can say, because head of the state, head of India is president, and president is indirectly elected by those members, those representatives which are chosen by we people, which are elected by we people. So India has an elected head of the state. President of India holds office for a term of 5 years. USA is also a republic. Why? Because in USA there is no king, no queen, right? So in case with the France, Great Britain on other hand, now opposite to that is monarch, right? So Great Britain is has a hereditary monarch, because in Great Britain there is a queen, right, as a head of a state. Now universal adult franchise, very important features. So we all know that universal adult franchise means the person who is 18 years or above 18 years has right to vote in elections and choose their representatives, right? Now this age, 18 years, that in 1989 the voting age was lowered from 21 to 18 years. Now the voting age is 18 years. Okay, now there are some provisions for this, the constitutions gives voting right to every person, every Indian, right? But first provision is who is citizen of India. That means that person, if that person is 18 years but he is an alien, he is from other country, abroad, then he is not a part, or he is not the part of that UAF, Universal Adult Franchise. So who is citizen of India? Secondly, not less than 18 years of age, as I already told you about it, and is not otherwise disqualified under any law. So these are the provisions. The constitution provides voting right to every person. Now next is a federal government. Now what is a federal government? India has a federal type of government. So federal type of government means like two sets of government, dual government we can say. Or why India needs dual government, two sets of government to organize a country. Because India is a vast country, big country, right? So it is very difficult to manage by one power. So the power has been divided into two sets of government: central government, which is also known as union government, and state government, right? So that is known as a federal government. Though the constitution has all characteristics of federations, the union or the central, and the central government in India has been vested with too many powers. The central legislature, that is the parliament, for example, has a right to form a new state or to increase or diminish the area of any state. In view of such features, the Indian Federation is said to be federal in form but unitary in spirit. So though the power has been divided into central and the state, but the central legislature, the parliament, like India has vested too many powers, or we can say the union or the central government or the union government in India has been vested with too many powers, right? Okay. Now next is single citizenship. This is also one of the features of Indian constitutions, because India provides a single citizenship to its citizen. So citizenship denotes a legal status of an individual, right? So normally under a federal government, there is dual citizenship in federal, because India is a federal government, or India has a federal type of government. So in federal government, what is there? There is a dual citizenship. So dual citizenship, there is a dual citizenship, that means a citizenship of the state to which a person belongs, and that of the nation, right? Which includes all the states. Now, for example, America, USA. In America, USA, all persons are citizen of United States and of the states like New York, Texas, or California, etc. So two citizenship they have. American citizen, right? They have two citizenship. Now, whereas Indian Constitution recognizes a single citizenship, that means every Indian is a citizen of India and has the same rights of citizenship no matter in which state he resides. Now next feature is parliamentary or cabinet form of government. So now what is this? That the two main features of the parliamentary cabinet form of government are: number one, the head of a state functions as a nominal head of the executive. His functions are chiefly formal or ceremonial in nature, whereas the real executive is the council of ministers with prime minister as their at the head, right? And the prime minister and other ministers are responsible to the legislatures for their acts, that means responsible to Lok Sabha. In India, the president has to act on the advice of the council of ministers. The council of ministers is collectively responsible to the house of the people, that is Lok Sabha. Now, what is this parliamentary form of government? That in parliamentary form of government, because we know president is what? President is the head of a state. But in India, president is a nominal head. So a nominal head means for name only. President is the head of a state, right? But the real executive head is prime minister and his council of ministers, right? So or in another way we can say that the president needs to act according to the decision, or according to the he needs to that president has to act on the advice of council of ministers, right? That means prime minister and his council of ministers. That is why that is why prime minister is the real executive head, means the real power in the hand real power is in the hand of prime minister and his council of ministers, right? So that type of form of government is known as cabinet or parliamentary form of government. So India has parliamentary and or a cabinet form of government. Now next is fundamental rights and duties. So I think you all are aware of fundamental rights. There are 6 basic fundamental rights: right to equality, right to freedom of religion, right against exploitations, right of cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. These are the 6 basic fundamental rights, and which are these fundamental rights are enforceable and justiciable by the court in India, right? Because if any one of the this fundamental rights is violated, in that case the person can move to High Court or Supreme Court for the protection of that fundamental rights. That is why the fundamental rights are justiciable, right, and enforceable. Now duties, we know that as a you all are aware of your duties, or being a citizen of India, what are your duties, and what kind of duties should be performed by the citizen. I think you all know and you all are aware of your duties, like what duties to be performed or should be performed by a citizen towards his or her country or nation, right? Okay. Now next is directive principle of state policy. The directive principles are intended to create a social order in which the justice of every kind shall prevail. The state should ensure that citizens have adequate means of livelihood. The economic system does not result in the concentration of wealth. These principles are not enforceable or justiciable. So let's talk about this directive principles. So these directive principles are what? It's an instructions, or certain principles are there, laws, rules are there, instructions are there, and according to which like the government has to act according to these principles, but these are not enforceable and justiciable, like fundamental rights, because fundamental rights are justiciable and enforceable. Now these principles are not enforceable and justiciable, yet they are fundamental, yet they are important, yet directive principles are important in the governance of the country, and it shall be the duty of the state to apply these principles in making laws, because directive principles of state policy definitely it's definitely going to help to maintain the social order, economic order of the state, right? Okay. Now next is secularism. The constitution aimed to establish a secular state. India is a secular state. Why? Because India has a tolerance of other religion, right? So India has no official religion. It allows equal freedom of faith and worship to all. But opposite to this secularism, that is theocratic state. So theocratic state means theocratic country, or theocratic state means the state which does not allow any other religion in their country, or which are very rigid towards their and strict towards their religion, right? So it's written here, our views on secularism can be summed up in the phrase Sarva Dharm Sambhav, that is equal respect for all religions. The opposite to the secular state, as I told you, that is theocratic state, which build upon the particular religious dogma. So for examples, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan, Kuwait, these are the theocratic, these countries have theocratic polity. The state of Pakistan also calls itself as Islamic Republic, right? So these countries, they don't have a tolerance of other religion. Now, a welfare state. Next feature is a welfare state. India is a welfare state. Why? Because a welfare state provides for its citizen a wide range of social services such as education, medical care, financial aid during old age, sickness, illness, or unemployment. So India is a welfare state because India has provided these services to all its citizens, right? And the Constitution of India lays down the state shall strive to promote the welfare of the people. So it's written here, part 4, under the part 4 of constitutions, the state is directed to ensure to the people employment, education, and assistance in case of old age, sickness, illness, and disablement. So in very short, we can say a welfare state is what? A welfare state is that organized state or that organized system which is devised by the government to ensure its citizen with employment and assistance or in cases of assistance in cases of old age, sickness, illness, and disablement, as well as ensure its people with education, right? So and we know that India is a welfare state. Why? Because India has provided all these facilities and services to all its citizens, right? Okay, so here we have completed the salient features of the Indian constitutions. Now next topic, the last topic, is the constitution as a beautifully balanced document. So let's have a look into this picture. Okay, now these are the 3 organs of the Indian government. The first one is legislatures, the second one is your executive, and the third one is judiciary. So the Indian constitution is a beautifully balanced document. The 3 chief functions of government, that is the legislature, this one is legislature, executive, and the judiciary, right? And have been entrusted to separate branches of the government, the parliament, the ministry, and the Supreme Court, and the other courts. So moreover, the Union Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to Lok Sabha, right? In India, judiciary is kept independent of both the executive and legislature. This wing or this organ is kept separate, right? So there's no single branch of or no single organ of government, Indian government, can claim absolute authority or power, right? So from this we come to know that the Indian constitution is a balanced document. So the constitution has also devised a few independent authorities to deal with the particular matters, such as your the Controller and Auditor General of India and the Election Commission, which have their own duties to be performed. So children, we have completed our first chapter, our constitution and its salient features. I hope you have understood whatever I taught you. And after watching this video, you just go through the chapter and revise it once again, right? Okay, that's all for the day. Thank you.